Hey everyone, cannabis legalization in Germany. It's happening in 2022. When will it happen and what kind of effect will it have on the stock market? Find out now in our latest podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dales Report. And I'm happy to be joined with the CEO of PharmaDrug, Daniel Cohen, back to the podcast. How are things?
Things are quite good. How are things with you?
About ready to settle down here. I think in the next couple of weeks, get some time off. It's been a sprint this year, has it not?
Yeah, it's been a lot. It's funny how you could be sitting in a partial lockdown and yet the world moves so fast anyway.
It's moving faster, I think.
Yeah, faster in many ways. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's crazy how much as we go down this road, I think of all these different industries that are going on with this, obviously the industry that you're in, the virus that obviously that we'll be continue to talk about, this whole crypto NFT DeFi space, just in crazy. It's a paradigm shift, but it really is, it can be a little overwhelming at times when we think of how fast this world is moving right now since COVID has kind of unveiled and people's lifestyles and the way they go about doing business has changed drastically. I'm sure you can relate to that.
I can. And COVID itself is evolving, as we all know.
Yeah.
And that's having an impact on us and our programs.
Yeah.
Not for the negative, not for the worse. It can actually ultimately be for the positive, especially since we're not the first stage of companies to come in and talk about, Cepharanthin, or not Cepharanthin, but having an antiviral or any type of therapeutic pill for COVID. But I actually think that the evolution of COVID could end up becoming a positive for us. But it's moving very quickly. And we'll talk about that today in terms of our meeting with the FDA and the meat and potatoes of what the outcome of that meeting was.
Yeah, you had an announcement the end of November based on your preclinical results for the drug Cepharanthin for viewers that are watching. And this has been a lead research drug that you've been focusing on. So it showed potential of efficacy for both COVID-19 and various cancers, which obviously continues to garner a lot of attention with COVID. So saying all this, what's next and what's the big takeaway here for, potential investors, current investors and new ones within your company based off of this announcement?
Yeah, so let's talk about the pre-IND meeting and the results and what they mean, like you just asked. So we had submitted a proposal for a pre-IND meeting for Cepharanthin and COVID. And we were granted the meeting. They felt that it was a legitimate meeting request. And this type of meeting takes form and really they basically send you the results of what they think. And a pre-IND meeting is like, I've used this analogy before. It's like going to the professor 2 weeks before your essay is due and handing in your essay and getting the feedback, not the grade, but the feedback, so that when you finally hand it in, you can hand in something better and have a better expectation of what's going to be the outcome. So that was the point of the pre-IND, or that is the point to a pre-IND meeting. Now, because despite the fact that it was a pre-IND meeting request for Cepharanthin and COVID, it actually has significant impacts on us planning and moving forward for Cepharanthin in general and Cepharanthin and cancer as well. Because of that, we will not need a pre-IND meeting for Cepharanthin and cancer. So when they're looking at this, the FDA, they're looking at two different aspects. The COVID aspect of Cepharanthin, but then Cepharanthin itself, our version of Cepharanthin as a drug that can be manufactured. Because you could say that it has efficacy, but you have to know that you can produce this drug, GMP, industrial scale, pharmaceutical caliber, and in mass production, right? And so you have to show that your ability to do that, or else it's just a theoretical exercise. And so, there are many different aspects.
How do you do that then?
Well, the people that we actually work with for the production of our Cepharanthin is the Southwest Institute, the Research Institute in Texas. They're a very advanced research lab with GMP manufacturing capabilities. They're actually the ones who developed this version of Cepharanthin. So they've done lots of testing, lots of science, lots of engineering, and have manufactured several batches. So,
and these are the key things the FDA looks for, correct?
You know what? I don't have the actual stat at my fingertips,
Yeah.
but a large percentage of clinical trials that fail actually fail because of the CMC, i.e.
Which
the
is
ability to produce the drug, industrial, large scale,
right.
GMP, pharmaceutical caliber.
If you get great remarks, there's a potential, obviously, to be fast tracked. Let's say, for example, like similar to Revive and their drug busilamine, they were fast tracked to a phase 3, which they're currently doing right now. So for yourself, if that were to happen, I look at some of the stuff, like what are important things? Yes, the efficacy is very, very important. But in addition to that, you probably would have to look at partnerships with potentially a pharma company that obviously could create the drug, distribute the drug. These are key things that the FDA. So I know that's later on down the road, but is that part of the process, if I'm understanding that correctly?
That's a huge part of the process, not the part of the process that we have the least worry about, because we basically got to check on where our protocols, let's say, for producing the drug are already looking great. We already got full marks on that. That doesn't mean that we don't have to continue to evolve them. But, by the end of the whole clinical trial, we can have the whole process protocols in a document, and we can either produce it where we've been producing it all along, or we can you go to another manufacturing facility and say, this is it. This is exactly how you produce it. You don't have to figure it out.
It sounds like the FDA has been very receptive and open to a lot of the research that you're doing so far. I know as far as investor and even people in society, the perception out there is that the FDA is corrupt. They're only going to gravitate towards the big pharma companies. Based on your experience and what you're, learning, dealing with them, working with them, is there anything you want to share that maybe people may misunderstand about what they're trying to do and trying to obviously achieve on a day-in-and-day basis related to this virus?
Look, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to really comment on how close the relationship is between the FDA and some of these large pharmas and how much cronyism is going on. It's not for me to discuss. Do I think that there's a close relationship, a close working relationship between the large pharmaceutical companies and the FDA? Yeah, they work together all the time. There's a level of trust that even if you have a better science from a smaller company, that it takes a while to develop that working relationship. And that needs to be understood. So I'm not going to be overly negative on that. But the reality is this, is that COVID's real. We all know COVID's real. Yeah. And the interest we're seeing in finding a drug that can really treat COVID doesn't just come from the FDA. So, you might have one type of cancer that is quite deadly, but, you don't have all different facets of the government peeking into what's being done to be able to treat this cancer, like an esophageal cancer. But everybody in the government is concerned with COVID and how they're going to treat this. And I can tell you that we aren't just having discussions with the FDA. We've had discussions with other, either government or quasi-government regulatory bodies that have an interest in making sure that there is a treatment for COVID. So we're seeing interest from many different, call it, pillars of the institution in the United States, of the institutions in the United States.
All right, I want to focus now on the psychedelic portion of your company, and obviously the partnership that you have with the Terry Saki Institute. And your DMT analogs related to glaucoma. So where are we timeline related to that as far as clinical trials? And for those that are watching the first time, maybe you better explain who the Terry Saki Institute is and the research that's being conducted there.
Yeah, so the Terry Saki Institute is a world-class lab. They were actually pulled out of UCLA, and they're experts at developing delivery mechanisms. So, you might have the actual drug, and we're looking to treat glaucoma, and you might have an eye drop, but do you want to just put eye drops in, or do you want to have some kind of device that can release the DMT formulation that we're going to come up with slowly and consistently over time. So you don't have to put eye drops in 3 times a day. You put a device in your eye and it releases it consistently and slowly over 10 days, 14 days, 28 days. And that's the work we're doing with Terry Saki. We've come up with 2 different DMT formulations that we think are the best to be able to treat the glaucoma. When you're treating glaucoma, you're treating the pressure that builds up in a specific nerve. That pressure damages the eye.
So what's the formulations then?
So we narrowed it down to 2 specific reformulations of DMT, We
Okay.
haven't told people what they are. What we're going to do is there are two different types of cell types in the eye that respond to DMT. There are receptor pathways that respond to DMT. We're going to test both of those cell types, and we're going to test them with both of the formulations of DMT. And that's going to happen over the next, 2-3 months. And we're not going to have to wait 3 months to get the answer. We're going to have, different layers of results over the next 2-3 months, starting possibly, in the next few weeks, but we'll see. And then
how does that
when we
work?
get from there, we're going to take the one molecule and we're going to go into an in vivo animal model. And then after that, we develop the prototype. Then we go to the FDA.
So what are the things, I guess, that you'll look for when you start to conduct that? And can you kind of explain as to how it works?
Yeah. So, DMT has been shown already in studies that it has the ability to respond to trigger a serotonin receptor pathway. And by doing that, it has the ability to reduce that pressure in that nerve that I talked about. Right. So, but, if you just take straight DMT, it might be too abrasive. It might not, to actually put it in the human eye. So we have to come up with a different formulation that has, doesn't have that abrasiveness, but also has that perfect mix between potency, how strong it is, and how long that lasts. Does it last for an hour, or does it last for 14 hours or 36 hours? So what we're going to be testing over the next 2-3 months is which cell type, which molecule, and once we figure all that out, then you move into the animal model. And then once the animal model gets figured out, we simultaneously develop that delivery mechanism, create that prototype, then we go to the FDA with a completely patentable device and formulation, right? Once we develop that, and we file the patent, that's ours.
Yeah, of course.
It can't be replicated. And then we go to the FDA to start a clinical trial.
When you say put DMT into an actual eye, how does that work when you're doing the trials? If and when, you go and start obviously with animals, are you actually physically putting DMT into someone's eye? Is that how it would work?
Yeah. So again, to step back a little bit, I won't take too long, but if you just take ayahuasca and pull the DMT out of it, you have to do something to the DMT for your body to be able to take it in and not even cause heart attacks. So, anytime you take the pure DMT, you got to do something to its chemistry to be able to make it effective in the body. So, we are looking for a reformulation of DMT or analog that is not abrasive on the eye, but still has that potency that DMT has. Yeah. So that's what we're looking to do. And in terms of how we put it in the eye, the whole part of the reason why we want to do this is that there are eye drops out there, not DMT, but other drugs. But people forget to put the drops in. They don't put them in while they're sleeping. So if we can come up with a device, something that you put in the eye, and you put it there for 2 weeks, and then for those 2 weeks, there's consistent, controlled release of that drug, then you basically solve all of the problems that you have with glaucoma today. Because although there's medicine out there for glaucoma, people go blind from glaucoma every year.
Let's switch now to cannabis. Exciting times. Germany is about to announce legalization federally. Hello, America. Can you hear that, America? Jesus.
Yeah. So I won't take too long here because it's pretty quick what we're doing there, right? So, the chancellor has been voted in. He's officially in power now.
Yeah.
He's told us from the beginning, we've put out press releases on this. They're going to legalize cannabis.
Yeah.
They're looking at a controlled substance act. So it's not going to be like alcohol where you can walk into any store in Germany and buy alcohol. You're still going to have to go to a specialty store. They're still deciding, does it stay in the pharmacy, or is it kind of like a pharmacy type of location and license? That being said, you need a controlled license. So right now, what we're doing a few things. Firstly, we just started introducing dronabinol, which is a synthetic form of THC. And the point to that isn't just to increase revenue, but it's also to increase our pharmacy network. We are going to be introducing several different types of oils, THC oils, pure THC oils over the next few months. We have our own branded product that's coming out in January. We're working on finalizing on bringing in other THC oils as well. So all of that is going on as we prepare for the broadening of the market. The third thing is You know, in terms of flowers, we were thinking that it was a little bit late, but now with legalization, we believe that flowers are going to become a driver again. And so we've started many discussions with different companies to be able to bring in cannabis flower into Germany. Now, lots of people are wholesaling flower in Germany. You can buy flower from Bedrocan without being an importer and narcotics distributor. We have a very special license and internal capability that we have the ability to import cannabis into Germany and distribute it either to wholesalers or straight to the pharmacies. So we're working on several different models in terms of being able to bring in additional cannabis into the country as it prepares for legalization. And so you're going to see lots of activity there from us over the next few months.
Is there a lot of other companies that have the same kind of license as you, or is it very few?
Not that many. There are a lot of wholesalers, but not that many have the ability to actually import land product officially into Germany and the EU, and to be able to sell it to either wholesalers or the end stores. So that is unique. We don't just have the license; we have the competency to do it. Because you can have the license, but does that mean you have the know-how of importing a narcotics, GMP inspections, making sure it fulfills that testing on landing, dealing with the regulator, how to store it, how to package it, all those things. Standard wholesaler cannot do, nor do they have the core competency to do.
It's going to open up the floodgates. It's the biggest economic engine in the EU, and once you see positive results in Germany, it's exciting to see that all this talk that we've heard about Europe for quite some time in the cannabis space is now actually coming to fruition. So anxious to see, and it sounds like you guys are ready to roll come 2022. When do you think, if I were to flat out ask you, when do you think it will be legalized in 2022?
I think the law will happen quickly.
Yeah,
because there's a desire for it to get there, and it's part of their platform. How long it takes to go from the laws passed to it's actually legal, I don't know. I mean, probably more like 2023. I mean, it took a while in Canada, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is that it's from the law being passed till legalization actually starts where all of the business happens, right? I mean, you can look back and say legalization in Canada was the top. Right? The day it was legalized was probably the top, right? So it's everything that happens from the point where we've made the law to when it actually is legal is when all of the activity happens. So that's going to be the exciting 2022 is when it's going to be the exciting part and the value creation part for cannabis in Germany.
Lots going on. If I don't see you, happy holiday season, and great year, obviously, to say the least, and anxious to obviously see how things are going to unfold in 2022, but I appreciate you catching up.
No problem. Thanks. Hope to see you soon.